video games. Welcome to Filthy Casuals, a podcast about video games hosted by three very kind and extremely knowledgeable boys. Thank you very much for joining us here the week after our Halloween spectacular episode. Business as usual. Thank you very much for joining us. My name is Tommy Daslow, and with me, as per usual...
My name is Ben Vanel, and I considered in the moment doing a Transylvanian accent, and I thought, for the listeners, it might just sound like I'm being racist and sound kind of Russian. But joining us, as always, is a man who's never been racist, and he's never Russian to anything. He's always right on time.
Welcome to the show, everybody. My name's Adam Knox. Yeah, we're there. Ben... in the middle of the night for me, while I was getting some Z's,
the spookiest time to spring this on you.
Very scary. I had a dream where someone's having a weird, dumb idea. Toss it and turn it. We did the Halloween episode a week ago. Why would he want us to dress up this week? I woke up to a message saying...
The message wasn't even, should we wear costumes? It was, let's wear costumes.
Yes.
It was very direct. Yes. No opt-in or out.
Yeah.
And then already a message being I'm on my way to get a costume now.
Yes.
I'm already doing it. I'm in the process.
Well, this episode comes out on Halloween. Today is Halloween.
Yep.
Today
in
is.
Australia, it'll be Halloween evening. It's the morning of Halloween in the rest of the world, I believe. Mm-hmm. And yeah, we did our Halloween stuff last week as a pre-record, and it was a great, opportunity to do a fun-themed episode. But this is Halloween, and I strongly...
As Jack Skellington once said.
This is Halloween. Go and look on our YouTube page because Tommy and I are... Tommy... was non-committal, but was pro the idea, and then has come out very strong on the video call before I was even dressed up.
Bringing the experience that came with recently planning a proposal. Yes. I think it was the same thing where it's I don't know, I'm probably not going to have to, we'll just probably have a quiet one and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And then shows up full Luigi costume
and
ring in hand.
I thought I would have more time in the day, and then I had to go and get my dog from my parents' house because they were looking after him while we were away, and the whole thing took so much longer than I thought. So I got in with 10 minutes to go, and I hit you guys with I didn't get time to go and look for anything. Let me just see what I've got around the house. And so, I get on the call, full Luigi costume, but then also, I'm stressing about it, trying to just look through a cupboard to find any kind of I knew there'd be some form of a wig or something. And then I get on the call and Ben's not even in anything. I was like, was this whole thing just a prank to make me go and be here dressed up like a big pumpkin or something? And then Ben's just in a t-shirt. I'm like, God damn it.
Well, I wasn't
ultimate
sure.
Trick.
We do, for the listeners, we record both of we record our main podcast, Filthy Casuals, and then we do the bonus podcast, the whole extra podcast that we do, Nintendo 69, which you can get on patreon.com/filthycasualspod. We record them in the same evening or for Knox morning in the same session. Sometimes we do the bonus first. I didn't want to be sitting around for 2 hours in a vampire costume answering people's questions for the mailbag, but very bold from Tommy to absolutely be okay with that.
To be fair as well, the costume for you, the costume for you is a cape there. So,
and it's
and a little
full
t-shirt.
waistcoat.
I don't want to be sitting around for 2 hours wearing a fucking shirt and jacket. I mean, a scarf here.
I'm really happy with my costume. It was $10 from Woolworths.
It comes up high behind you too. I'll describe Tommy's costume as a dickhead at a go-kart track.
Yeah, it's real Bucks Party energy. To see one of your favorite characters in culture, really, defiled in this way by lad culture costume makers is pretty. Yeah, it's pretty disheartening.
Well,
but I kind of figured, if we're doing this, if we're going to be in costume, I kind of figured most of the point is that sweet moment when you log on the call, those couple of seconds after your camera turns on. That's what it's all about. Just being already on camera and being I'll just quickly go in behind where I am now and just off camera and get changed and then walk back into frame.
Yeah.
No.
And it got me. No, logging in and
really
seeing
did.
Luigi. Again, like a dream I have all the time. Speaking of dreams,
Yeah.
Can I tell you, by the way, I've just got a Google Meet background. Google Meet, don't mind if I do, I'm hungry. Speaking of dreams, the dream of having Concord be successful.
Yes.
As, people have had a harsh awakening from that over at Sony. Firewalk, the studio behind Concord, has been shut. The game is done and gone forever, is essentially what's happened there. Kind of writing on the wall sort of thing. People were talking about whether or not they might transition it into being a free-to-play thing and try to squeeze some blood out of the stone. And don't get too excited, Ben.
Yummy!
I've said stones.
Stones!
Vampires
Stone
eat rocks,
blood.
like brachiosaurs. Yeah,
It
it's
is
a shame.
It's
but-
like we've had, obviously, previously in the year, we've had a lot of studios get shut for more amorphous, vague, like, we acquired you and now we're consolidating, you know, like, doesn't make sense to have you as a separate developer because we'll fold you into the Xbox, Microsoft sort of teams. But this is, full on just like the game that we directed you to make and presumably get, you know, pushed in the direction of like, we want a live service game to compete with everyone and all of that stuff. Gave you lots of money to do, sure. But, you know, we're sort of hand on the tiller. That failed. We gave it 2 weeks in the wild.
That's it. Yeah.
and now you're out of a job.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. It's been unclear what the sort of the timeline of them making this game and then getting acquired by Sony and all of that. But Sony definitely, they've shut down another studio whose name I've lost here annoyingly, which I am sorry about that. But they were working on, apparently in the background, another live service game.
Right.
Oh, right.
So
Neon Koi, sorry, is
Yes.
the other one, yeah. So it's over 200 people. So over 200 people being let go, 172 at Firewalk, and 38 at Neon Koi. It's clearly, I think the result of a change in direction.
Well, and they had a change in management and all sorts of stuff
Right.
at the Sony gaming division over the last year or so, and that the live service stuff, people in general seem to be coming to terms with the fact that it's not really doable just because you want to do it. That there's a lot of luck and good timing that needs to be there for a big live service game like that to work. And, you know, without wanting to sound too harsh about it, I do think in the case of Concord, it was not entirely not their fault that the game did not do well. It wasn't an interesting game.
Yeah, people
And
are like, they don't have to like a game. and if few enough
flop
people
on
like it.
Totally. This is a flop on like a monumental, like all-time across media
Yeah, because
level.
also if you get acquired by such a big company, then they're going to push it front and center. So the stakes immediately become a lot higher. So like if you're...
Wait, don't say the word steak around me. Hey.
Google Meet.
Don't say it around me either. I'm at a Bucks party. I'm ready to go. Like if you are less in the spotlight, if you're just like that sort of smaller studio, you know, you can kind of bring something out that's maybe like a 7 out of 10 that gets, you know, that the people that are into it are really into it. You know, maybe that gets you enough clout to survive to make like the next thing. And
imagine if this was like, you know, a beta of it or an early access version dropped during like a Steam Next Fest or something like that, and people are like, hey, great, this is cool, like this is a fun idea, it's a fun twist on, or it's a refinement of existing shooters. But like you said, it gets pushed into the limelight and the expectations are raised, and also the negativity is raised.
Yeah.
Well, with the limelight thing too, a lot of people didn't know about it. They showed like that one sort of cutscene at one random state of play or whatever it was. When it came out, a lot of people didn't know, and I got the sense a little bit that it may have been already that they were like, this is not the direction, or like
It's
management
not gonna-
might have been like, this isn't really gonna, and it was just kind of, hey, we'll put it out because it's nearly there, but I don't know. That's the impression I get. It didn't seem like that, but they made like fucking custom controllers and all sorts of shit for it. So
And there was probably a bit of an expectation that like the people that are into this sort of stuff play like every one of them that comes out. So it's like, we can rely on a bit of a base of people who just go in on this type of game. Interestingly, this is, while I think of it quick, I haven't played any of the new releases this week, but what I did do while I was in Vietnam, I read the entirety of Play Nice by Jason Schreier, his book about the rise, fall, and future of Blizzard Activision, and great read. Really recommend it to anyone listening. I've not interacted with any Blizzard games. I'm not I don't really know a lot about their story, so I found it especially fascinating. He tells it in such a way that, even to kind of a layman of their games like me, it's it's so interesting. And there's a quote in there where someone from Blizzard talks about how when you go from making millions to billions, everything changes. And they might be the most solid example of that, of working away, doing their thing, then they get acquired, and all of a sudden they've got all these different pressures of Bobby Kotick. They talk about how him at one point with Guitar Hero, he was like, I want there to be a new Guitar Hero game out once a month. And the developers going, that's just literally not possible. He's known for every franchise that was under him at Activision. He's like, great, it's a hit. New one every year, and then spin-offs to fill that gap. And then
to be fair as well, I think the full quote from Bobby Kotick was, one a month!
He just, he is a guy who was pure business and got into gaming sort of through, by acquiring companies. So he's so at odds with the gamer first mentality that they had at Blizzard to begin with. But I just found it so interesting and just really heartbreaking, because you kind of can't, it's hard to be a studio and be completely independent, and they sell Blizzard early on to a company that were pretty cool and gave them a lot of autonomy to get themselves some money to start making the stuff that they wanted to make. But then, of course, that company gets acquired, and then everything, the idea of just being able to exist in a bubble and just make your own stuff and have no outside interference in gaming, it's hard. It's basically impossible to continue that going for a long time without at some stage getting into bed with a big corporation who is going to be focused on, spreadsheets and quarterly earnings and be answering to a higher power.
And with Bungie, which is where a lot of the developers for Concord came from, they sort of were a Microsoft, not first party, but they got out from under that umbrella, and then they made Destiny, but they had to kind of go and get under, I think, Activision's wing, and then got back from that, but then they've had a confusing and all over the place, here's our publisher, now we're independent, here's our publisher, now we're independent, and that's where a lot of these people come from. And speaking of Blizzard, they obviously took a lot of cues from Overwatch, which people didn't care for. And I thought this game looked shit, but I also don't like with Concord whatever. It happens with fucking all sorts of games and stuff now. Just a lot of the gleeful response of it's because you went woke, and you fucking idiots.
Oh, man.
You dumb fucks.
Reading the fucking replies to Firewalk Studios tweet is a window into the fucking scum of the world. Just
dumb people.
Awful,
just
negative.
Ignorant.
Yeah. Terrible.
I hope you all grow. But unfortunately, Concord will not. It's done.
Nope.
And there's a fair bit of that sort of I suppose downbeat business news this week. The Prince of Persia Lost Crown team has all sort of been shuffled into other stuff at Ubisoft, which that game was okay, but Ubisoft is in a lot of trouble at the moment, and they're flopping and floundering all over the place. Assassin's Creed just got pushed back.
Yeah.
It didn't hit the Prince of Persia didn't hit the target that they wanted it to get a sequel. And so again, that's there's a lot of Metroidvanias out there. I don't really think that the Prince of Persia brand is perhaps as strong as they maybe they would have been better off just letting that team do a new IP, and then it's going to have less expectation on it, and less of like a defined target that they would have invented that it had to hit.
Also,
And-
I mean,
it was a critical success. So, like, if
Yeah.
you view it as, like, one of the measuring sticks for why you do anything in your company that makes games is making good games, then it succeeded there. Like, if you don't have, like, loss leaders as a company like Ubisoft, then you can't absorb the mild success of a game that was well received critically and by like people who played it, then what are you doing in this industry? Become a hedge fund manager instead.
Right,
Like,
right.
there's been a lot of, there's indications that some of the people at Ubisoft basically are. They just put out like a weird full-blown NFT game is what this headline I'm
Yeah,
reading
right.
describes it as. Champions Tactics Grimoria Chronicles.
Okay.
It's some
Jesus.
NFT cryptocurrency, something or other. I don't really know, but you can look into that more yourself if you want to, but I wouldn't bother.
Yeah.
But, it's also a part of a problem with Prince of Persia specifically of like that a bunch of developers have been talking about for a while now of the big gap between like a AAA thing and an indie thing and that like what they used to call AA or whatever sort of space not really being able to exist in the same way that it used to. And that this guy from Larian, who the Baldur's Gate people,
Yes.
Michael Dowse, the director of publishing, was talking, I guess, on Twitter about like how he felt as though them putting it on like the Uplay store or whatever it's called,
Oh,
and
yeah,
not on
yeah,
Steam on PC, kind of hurt it, and that stuff does kind of suck. I mean, having played some Call of Duty Black Ops 6 this week, having separate launches and stuff for games is fucking dumb and annoying.
Right, and I
Yes.
think also because you play as a subscription service, I think one of the key points that got picked up by this other article is that the idea that people want to own their games, and you've been like such a proponent of that, Knox, like the idea of it just being a license that you essentially rent until the shop front that runs that license closes forever is turning people off. It's he says
People
what did
don't
he
like
say?
entropy and decay, and it's
Yeah.
natural not to. We don't like things to go away, and it's not just on the premium, the like Ubisoft
No, you
subscription
can
thing, but
buy
yeah,
it.
it was like just not on Steam to buy either.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it was, you had to buy it through their shop, like the Blizzard app and like EA used to do.
Yes.
And I get not wanting to pay you 30% or whatever to Steam, but you know, also I don't want to pay to eat the food that I eat. But yeah, you know.
I don't think I realized this. It wasn't released on Steam until 7 months after it was initially released. So there's 7 months there where, of course, the sales are going to be impacted by the reduction in shop fronts and access to people who want to buy it.
And at this point, like a lot of people use Steam, and they probably do go by a lot of like the reviews and stuff that are on there, stuff
Yeah.
that shows up on the front page. You click
For
on
sure.
something, and if it's got like overwhelmingly positive, people have kind of built that into their experience of how they find new stuff to play. So yes, that's a big cut, but I think it is kind of one of those cases where maybe for a way, way, way smaller thing, it's a bit harder, but something like a Ubisoft Prince of Persia game, it is going to get good coverage on the front pages of it.
Yeah.
And even
the
though
store.
it was like critically well received, I thought it was okay. And I don't know, I think that there was something about just the temperature of it that people just weren't interested in that one. That just happens sometimes.
Well,
you
And
know,
it
just
came
wasn't
out
appealing.
like the first or second. It came out right at the very start of the
Yeah.
year, so that's
Yeah.
probably part of it too. People
Yeah.
were
Kinda
not really
dumping it
paying
in.
attention when it
Yeah.
came out. Yeah,
But
these
yeah,
sorts
clearly
of insights. Sorry.
they have recognized that is the wrong approach, because they've said now that, I don't know, if you mentioned that already, Knox, they will be releasing all of their games on Steam on day one from now on. So it's like,
Well,
yeah.
Star Wars Outlaws for them was, I think, a similar thing where
Right.
it didn't do anywhere near what they thought it would. And again, Star Wars has changed people's interest in like those types of Assassin's Creed type games, if they even are able to come out at the time they say they will, is less than it has been, and I don't think their model around that stuff or their expectations around that stuff has changed.
Right.
And maybe they could get somebody in who, some sort of CEO who would be so valuable to their direction and to their business, even in such a devastating year, that they can afford to increase that person's pay by 63%. Up to $79.1 million US.
Oh yeah, for the listeners at home, I'm dressed as a vampire. I'm actually it's a CEO costume.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah,
it's a CEO costume. I'm
even
training.
a vampire would struggle with the idea of laying off like 2,500 people in a year and then saying, by the way, I'm taking a whole lot more money out of Microsoft. This is Satya Nadella, who is the CEO of Microsoft, who in the same year that Xbox in particular had a rough time with a lot of layoffs and all that sort of stuff. He's, I don't know, like, this isn't necessarily a game story, but ain't that a fucking goddamn, we need to, Yeah, I'm just dressed as a guy with a pitchfork and a Molotov cocktail. Don't worry about it. It's Halloween.
It's so like, and you're right, like it's more complicated than this, but you see it's like 2,000 plus jobs lost. Like, what is it? Between 3 and 6 studios shuttered, and you see that come off the balance sheet, and then you see $80 million has just turned up to go into the wallet of the CEO of the company. It just feels like really gross.
This is another thing that comes up in the Blizzard book, is that the offices being in Irvine, which is a really expensive city, and so a lot of people there in the kind of the like lower end of the company, like literally not able to afford to live in the city, like having to live with like 5 other people in like a 2-bedroom house. And it's like, yeah, we're like QA testers and stuff, but we work at a company that is turning over billions of dollars, that is just based in this city, that we're not choosing to live in an expensive city. Like, we want to work for this company. And then like when COVID kicks in, a lot of them are like, oh, okay, well, we're all going remote. That's kind of good because we can still work at the company, but go back and actually afford to live. And then eventually they're like, no, okay, it's all over now. You have to, you are going to have to start coming back into the office.
The entire world has a huge problem at the moment too with short-term thinking and its incorrect valuation of labor, and it's all attitudinal. People argue that it's an economic thing, but guess what? Economics is just the study of people's silly opinions fluctuating and creating a thing called money that we have pretended exists.
Yes.
And we decided economics is a social study. You were an arts student if you studied economics. Anyway, what did you say the city was called?
Irvine.
Oh yeah, that's named after what Tarzan says when he forgets how to get to work, right?
Yeah, I think
forgets the transport method he uses to get to work.
I think that's
think about it for a second.
exactly what it's named after. Yeah.
Yeah.
Your friends over at
me
Call
that
of
80
Duty
million
docs,
bucks.
they've that obviously we're talking about Activision, and like that is a real issue. The Call of Duty Black Ops 6 developers, some of the staff, the quality assurance people at least, have gone on strike because they don't want to go back to the office because it's ridiculous to enforce it. People within the union basically called it a soft layoff because they knew, that the enforcement of this will lead to people having to be like, I can't come back. I live far away. I can't afford it. I'm going to have to resign and get less benefits than I would have otherwise been given, which is also really, gross.
Yeah. It's been happening with a lot of tech companies from what I see as well. That particularly with the back to work scam.
Yep.
Even just phrasing it like, you got to get back into the office. Like, brother, I'm in the office every day. It's just not there. I'm not next to you, so you can fucking leer over me. Oh, listen, we got to change it all.
Yes.
Luigi, Dracula, are you with me?
Let's get back together for one final job. Luigi, Dracula, Adam Knox.
This is like, man, when I was a kid, like, I had some toys and stuff, but then a lot of them would be like just bits and pieces you got in hand-me-downs from older cousins and that sort of thing. So you really ended up building headcanon about like,
Oh, yeah.
this is how He-Man and Optimus Prime and this other one, like, and this Godzilla from a Happy Meal finger puppet who's actually betrayed Optimus Prime now, like having that mishmash of toys and having to make stories about them. That's how you get creative. That's what we need these bloody CEOs to go and do.
Yeah.
Less than 24 hours ago, I was watching a clip from Jimmy Fallon of AJ and Big Justice and the Rizzler all on the show the other night. And just like looking at these three TikTokers, one of whom is a little child whose feet don't touch the ground from the couch. And just being like, this is one of the most ridiculous things I've ever seen in my life. Not knowing that I was a mere 24 hours away from this very video call that looks worse in every way.
It's the internet, dude. Johnny Carson didn't used to have to do that stuff. He was on TV. What are you going to do? Think? You got to watch something. But now we've got to compete with everything that's on the internet. And so does Jimmy. Johnny Carson never did embarrassing, like get pissed on by an orangutan every second week when they needed something interesting because Burt Reynolds dropped out.
That's what I kept thinking was like, okay, this is so old man brain to see this and be like, isn't this pathetic where culture has gotten to? And I was trying to imagine 20 years ago, what was like the equivalent of a 38-year-old, shaking their fist at the TV and being like, I can't believe he just got a dog on jumping through a hoop.
Yeah. It was like boy bands and stuff, I guess.
Yeah,
a lot of the 38-year-olds of the late 90s were like, oh, NSYNC. And you know what? They were also right.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, the other thing that it was invented then was reality TV, which you can definitely argue is...
big time. Like
net
Snooki
negative.
and stuff being on those shows would have been like the equivalent of that at the time. Yeah.
But, hey, let's get back into the holiday spirit.
Okay.
It's Halloween. It's a time to go to laugh after
a time
going.
of celebration.
And people are still out there, making pushes and making waves in the areas of art and commerce. And a likely place where both of those things will, I would guess, do well is from the Smash Brothers and Kirby guy, Masahiro Sakurai, who has teased that a new game is secretly, or has been in the works secretly for years.
Yep.
And I would assume this is a Switch 2 thing. He says we'll announce it eventually. He closed and ended his YouTube channel he's been doing for a bit about game design. Those little videos that are great about game design concepts.
Which I
did
think
a finale of that.
He's been releasing them for weekly for a year or so.
4 years or something.
Yeah, right.
I think it was during the pandemic they started.
That rings a bell.
And he banked most of them, I think. Was the thing he'd pre-recorded a heap of them, and he in the last one he's got this breakdown of what he spent on them, and he got into the finances, and he hasn't monetized the channel. He just wanted to make this resource for people who are interested in game development to be able to learn about it, which is pretty cool. And closing it off by going, I've been secretly, it's real if you're seeing this I'm already dead kind of stuff. Then also knowing that he just banked them, it's right, so did he just crank all these out because he was not going to have the time, because he's been while we've been watching him what we think is live every week, he's actually been just crunching these 18-hour days working on this new game. Old Terry 2 TVs himself.
That was because they were each minutes long, and he would talk to the camera and whatever, and then obviously a different editor would put them together.
Right.
But the best thing out of those was that he had 2 full TVs along
side
the wall.
by side.
The absolute dream.
He's announced that he's working on a new game, and still the best thing that happened was double TV action.
Yeah. You could put slightly different angles on each one and cross your eyes and do VR.
Oh, hell yeah.
It's,
I wonder if that will be implemented into his new game. Obviously he's worked on 2-screen consoles before.
Absolutely.
That's true.
This is a 2-screen home console.
Maybe the Labo VR is back, and you can put some cardboard over your face and sit across from 2 TVs.
The Switch 2 reveal video, it opens with a close-up of the back of the machine, and it's got 2 HDMI ports in it. And people are like, oh, that's interesting. I guess maybe one's an in and out for if you're streaming. That's cool that they're making that easier for people. And then it spins around and it's no, it needs to be plugged into 2 TVs at the same time in order to work.
And you want it's called the Switch Switch 2, but you're not going to like why.
It's been hiding there in plain sight, folks.
The last one was all about being portable. This one, opposite
Yep.
direction.
And hey, people didn't want us to, people wanted us to work with the consumer a bit more. Instead of having these crazy ideas, they wanted backwards compatibility. Oh, we'll give you your fucking backwards compatibility.
We got sideways compatibility.
That's what the second TV is for. Playing all your old fucking games on. The
It's
new
backwards
ones can only
compatible. You can play the N64 and the Wii at once. You son of a bitch. Real aggressive. They've put out some stuff, actually. They put out Shadow Man and Turok 2 on the Switch Online thing, which is cool. Shadow Man is a fun game.
Yeah. You
I've
played
never played it.
the original of it a couple of years ago?
Yeah, not that long ago. Whenever that remaster came out, I played the original.
Yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, there's some stuff that's been going on in the bloody wide world of video games. But you know what else exists in that wide of a world? There is a Monster Hunter beta up as well that we'll probably talk about next week. Actually,
Yes.
is the one last thing.
Exciting.
You go have a look at that now if you want. I think it's out on everything as of today. The PC, the Xbox, and the PS5. It's been out on the PS5 like for the week on PS Plus. They've got some, for some reason, extra time. But that goes over the weekend, so get to that before.
And Ben, just
Monday.
don't freak out when we say Monster Hunter. We're not talking about like Van Helsing or anything, okay? So don't worry. He's not. He's
Who's
not
Van
coming,
Helsing?
He's not coming for you.
I'm Dracula before I knew I was being hunted. Thanks for the tip-off.
Shit, we've changed the course of history here.
Yes.
Yeah, but I watched a bit of that. I watched a bit of my brother play that on the PS5
cool.
over a virtual connection. And it looked like Monster Hunter. Looks like it's got some bugs.
Right.
Hey, speaking of bugs,
Uh-oh.
I've been playing Call of Duty Black Ops 6 at launch.
Oh, yeah.
Would you like to hear about... We've all played a few little bloody games this week. Well,
Yeah.
what do you want to talk about first? You want to call it Call of Duty little
Yeah.
spiel, or-
Let's get this big boy out of the way.
I'm ready for your annual Call of Duty wrap.
Yes.
Let's have it.
Yeah, okay. Well, my name is Adam, and I'm here to say they've done all right in a pretty okay way.
Okay.
Rapping
My name's Adam,
as happens
I'm
with most
here to
people, it's
say-
gotten worse.
Look at me holding this AK.
My name is Adam, and I'm here to say. I guess I could start with a different sentence that would make it
No.
easier to rhyme
No.
the second one if I wanted to.
No. Have you ever heard a rap song that doesn't start with "I'm here to say"? No.
That's true. My name is Adam, and I'm here to say it's got some technical issues in some severe ways.
Ooh, nice.
So, all right, Call of Duty is out again. This is a Treyarch one. They are the people who, for a very long time, have been doing Black Ops. You had Black Ops 1 back in 2010, I
Okay.
want to say.
Oh, yeah. I would have been 33. No, 23.
In 2010?
23,
say.
sorry.
304 or something, surely. Old Dracula.
2023.
Black Ops 2, they also had. And then Black Ops 3, I didn't like. Then they did 4, and it was stylized as the 4 lines. Then they did Black Ops Cold War in 2020. They wanted to call this one Black Ops 6 with 6 individual tally marks lined up alongside each other.
No.
And apparently the marketing team over there went, don't do that. Don't make it that. That's crazy.
Yeah, that's
And I
fair
don't
enough.
also get why they'd want to do it, but it's pretty funny.
I love it.
Black Ops
Wait,
is
you mean
weird.
it was going to be like 6, like just one stroke?
6 lines.
Yeah, okay.
But
so
you
not
got
even like
5.
the 5 through the
Yeah.
line and then 1?
Nope.
Just like
6
awesome.
lines, each individual.
Awesome.
I mean, if that's where it came down to, they were like, either you do the 5 stroke across and add 1, or you just do a digit 6. And they were like, no, it's 6 lines or nothing.
It's all of the lines or nothing.
And, well, because everyone assumed, it's like Fast and the Furious, everyone assumed with Black Ops 3 that they were doing Roman numerals.
Yeah.
But then Black Ops 4 came out, and it wasn't IV, it was just 4 lines in a row. And people went, oh, I guess it's sort of like tally marks are a bit military. I guess that makes sense. But then 5 was called Cold War, so it didn't have any number there.
They didn't even get.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Well, that's what sunk them is like not having that.
The
They could have
consistency.
had that argument when they got
Yeah.
to 5 and gone like, "Hey, we think it's actually to not do the cross through. We'll just do 5 of the lines."
Yeah.
Insane
If all
still.
of them were just the lines, and it got to the point where you're in the store trying to find like what Call of Duty you want, and having to stand there and be like, "Okay, this
I find it
15,
so
16,
hard.
17, 18, 19, 20. Yeah, this is the one I want.
If there's like like a Wi-Fi password or something with too many similar numbers or letters in a row, I find it impossible to walk my way through that. I'm like,
Oh, yeah.
Kid getting lost in a forest in a fairy tale in the middle of that stuff, and I would not have been able to tell which Black Ops this was. But thankfully,
just
we've just got
quickly,
Arabic
speaking-
numeral 6.
Speaking Wi-Fi passwords very quickly, and I'd love some help from the listeners with this hypothesis.
Okay.
We were just in Vietnam for 2 weeks. I reckon every Wi-Fi password over there, in that part of Asia at least, one of only 3 things. Either Wi-Fi password will be 09876543321, or it'll be the name of the cafe, bar, restaurant, whatever, or it'll be the phrase "thank you." Those are the only 3 types of Wi-Fi password I saw, and I saw all of them at least 3 or 4 times across the trip. So weigh in if you've been to other parts of Vietnam, other parts of Southeast Asia. I'd love to get this hypothesis going of there are only 3 types of Wi-Fi password in that part of the world.
Well, from the 9 to 12 different places you'd have gone to see each of those 3 to 4 times, I think that's a big enough sample size for you to pretty confidently say that the entirety of Vietnam and, as you've put it, the region of Asia.
Yes. But that's why I'm asking for help. I've got the beginnings. I've got I'm admit that it's just a small sample size.
Well, I'm going to weigh in here. I'm a listener. I had to listen to that absolute drivel. There's more than that.
Okay.
Case closed.
I would say they're also the most common that I've seen anywhere. Is just like name of the place or like thank you or guest or whatever. I don't think I've ever seen it start with a 0 and then count from 9 backwards. 0 goes at the end of that sequence. Either way, Call of Duty's put out another game.
Yes.
This one is the first one that's launching on Game Pass. They put out Modern Warfare 3 on Game Pass at some point throughout the year, but this one is day one launching on Game Pass. That's where I'm playing it on a PC. It's annoying because like the Game Pass, the Xbox app on the PC isn't great anyway, but this one, for some reason, this game in particular is taking minutes to launch for me. Like at least 3 minutes of just sitting there going like launching game and waiting. And that's not the longest time in the world, but it's an annoying amount of time when the last one I played was on the PS5. And when you clicked launch on a PS5, brother, that game started up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like you have to install Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 and then...
Oh, well, so that's the second lot of stuff. Like, this particular issue isn't happening to everyone. I'm trying to find stuff about it.
Oh,
but
sure.
Anyway, then once you're in, it launches, like there's Call of Duty. They've made this bizarre wrapper that exists, like me before when I was saying...
my name's
is
Activision,
Adam.
and I'm here to say you're going to have to launch this game in
Another
about
way.
14 different ways.
You start it up and it goes to like this Call of Duty app from which you can launch the different types of modes and different games, which at this point is like they've got the legacy of like Modern Warfare 2 and all of that, but Modern Warfare 3, Black Ops 6, the campaign, the zombies and the multiplayer, and there's Warzone.
Right.
And each of those kind of takes you to a different program on the PC, which takes a while and sometimes crashes, has happened to me, or like it'll do that thing where it's like update requires restart and you've got to sort of launch the thing again and it's gone weird.
Right.
And it's just an unpleasant and I think unnecessary process to go through that is clearly built to have microtransactions for different games exist within the same space, but it's fucking annoying.
And
anyway,
cross-promote and all of that shit. If you don't have this game, then hey, remember there's a giant ad for it while we're launching Black Ops 6 and
it just is clunky, and the whole UI for that stuff. It's designed by someone who used to do the Netflix UI designs, I think, and it just looks like shit. And it looks like a thing that isn't for a game. It is for like, it makes sense to have just big thumbnails for 6 different movies, but you need more detail sometimes for... Anyway, beyond all of that stuff, the actual game itself, I've played most of, I think, the campaign at this point, which, starting with that, is the best one they've done in ages.
I've heard it's pretty good. It's like 7 to 9-ish hours long, which I think is a little bit more, hefty than the recent ones.
Well, and like Modern Warfare 3 last year especially was such an afterthought feeling kind of thing where they took a lot of the concepts of like, and Call of Duty as a series has been toying with this thing of kind of all the different game modes they have, the campaign taking ideas from each of those things and wrapping them in. Warzone in particular, with like larger, more open levels that you can kind of go around like a Warzone map and make choices in. And this game, Black Ops 6, does a better job of that idea than Call of Duty has done in ages. And it feels almost like like a Halo or like Gears 5 or whatever, where you have those sort of open maps in a shooter to go do a series of predetermined tasks in whatever order you want, which doesn't make a huge difference, but it's kind of fun. And it's not every level too. Like there's a good variety of different things that you're doing in each of these levels, and sort of you can choose to be stealthy in this one or to be go loud, and it's got that like cinematic, ridiculous, scripted event Call of Duty thing that I think is the series' staple and is the sort of thing I'm coming to these games wanting to get out of them. The big, explosive, sometimes literally bombastic, like sequences.
Wow,
dude, this guy can write. The ideas behind them and the little set pieces that they come up with are goofy and creative and fun in the way that this series is at its best when it's doing in the campaign.
Yeah.
So I'm enjoying that, and it's got this like, over the top sort of espionage intrigue story of like this. Hey, we've been excommunicated by the fucking CIA. We're on our own here. We've got to make our own little base, and we got to go get the real bad guys and da-da-da. And it's done well. It's cheesy in a fun way. It's self-aware in a good way.
It's Tom Cruise Mission Impossible style shit.
It really is. It's set in 1991, just after the Cold War has ended, which there's an article on the Call of Duty website that kind of spells out a bunch of the story from the other Black Ops games, which is worth having a look at if you're going to engage with that part at all, because it's ridiculous, and there's been a lot of it, where Call of Duty 1 was set in like, I think the 60s through to a little bit later, and it was like you've got to try and assassinate Castro and stuff like that in Black Ops 1. Then the stuff from that leads into Black Ops 2, which took place in the at the time future and in like Vietnam.
Right.
For like late 60s and early 70s. And then 3 went into the far future and had one of the people from Law and Order. Then 4 didn't have a single player campaign, but had some cutscenes that I think were also in the future. 5 went back into the 80s in the Cold War, and now 6 is taking place in 1991.
Okay.
Are you with me?
Yeah. I played Black Ops 1 and 5, so...
Honestly, you've probably got the majority of it.
Yeah, genuinely. And I really, really enjoyed Black Ops 1. I don't know if I finished the campaign for Black Ops 5.
That was Cold War.
That was Cold War, yeah. I feel like, because that was coming out when there was a fair bit of stuff going on gaming-wise. It was
like around the launch of the new consoles is when that one came out. And it had some of the stuff that they're doing in this, where you could kind of talk to people at the base and so on. But the story is silly and fun in the way that like that original Modern Warfare trilogy kind of became. And it's like over the top and comic booky and cartoony in a way that I didn't like about the last Modern Warfare 3, where it treated the main characters as though they were superheroes. This is more Mission Impossible, where it's like, no, they're just really good secret agents or whatever.
Right.
Cool.
Anyway, so once you get into all that story stuff, it's doing some fun little, continuations and callbacks and whatever to the rest of the series, and it continues it in a fun way. The fact that it's set in 1991, it does not let you forget, and has a lot of fun with. Like, you go in an early mission to a Bill Clinton rally, and you're trying to take a photo of the like senator whose eyeball you need to get into a room, who's up on the stage meeting Clinton. I don't know if that sequence would allow for any way where you could like run up and punch Clinton. I don't think so.
Maybe if you run, it would probably allow you to run up and suck him off, though.
I think that happens. Yeah.
Yeah. That's scripted, actually. That's
The Black Ops series has been doing that for ages, where it's like, here's Ronald Reagan, he's giving you the mission and all of that, and it's like,
that's going to be a cosmetic upgrade that you can buy, the blue dress with the cum on it.
Yeah, a little like saxophone emote.
That is, I don't know if you guys saw Long Legs.
Hey, I see him every time I look down.
Whoa. That's where your lady friend is. She's just down on the ground.
Yeah, I got a DVD copy of the movie lodged in my gut.
That the Bill Clinton is also their shorthand for 90s. There's just a scene where Bill Clinton is, the portrait of him is on like one of the cops' walls. It's like, oh yeah,
It's
that's
90s.
Right.
We're in the 90s.
Yeah.
George H.W., you like go to Saddam Hussein's palace. I don't want to give too much stuff away, but like there's a bunch of stuff
cool.
like that, one of them. But it's like it hits the right tone with that stuff of being like kind of goofy, fake historical, over the top, in a way that I enjoy. And then like the licensed music they use really well in like a ludicrous way where, in an early mission, a van comes to pick you up and you're running away and like Head Like a Hole by 9 Inch Nails is being played real loudly by the driver. But then in one of the multiplayer maps, and this fucking it was such a weird feeling. There's a multiplayer map that's like a football stadium, a soccer stadium, as you might call it, a soccer arena.
Oh, yeah. A soccer. A bottle of water arena.
A soccer, that's Anakin's, mate, right? You're running around, like, in the edge of one of these maps, of this map, there's a radio for no reason that's there, and running around a multiplayer map with that, like, you want it all, but you can't have it. What an unnecessary use of money.
Yeah.
But really funny.
Yeah, that's good shit.
So I'm having a good time with the campaign. Like it's goofy in the way that Call of Duty is most fun when it's being like that. A silly car chase happens out of nowhere, and that's cool.
Yep.
I just want to double check this. So Raven Software are the ones who did this single player campaign. Treyarch did the multiplayer. So I don't know if what they've done previously in terms of Black Ops stuff. It looks like I
believe that Raven were the support studio on this game. Is that possibly right?
It says Black Ops 6 was co-developed by Treyarch and Raven, with Raven leading production on the game's single player and Treyarch developing the multiplayer and zombies modes. I think they were support on Cold War. And have,
well, Raven,
have
I think, have they've been doing Call of Duty games for a long while. I think they at some point were like the lead developers on one or two of them.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know, I guess, about the relation between that, but that I suppose would surprise me if Raven were. But Raven are the people who made like they've been around for ages. They made like the Jedi Knight games back in the day and stuff like that. Yeah. And they've been like co-developers of a bunch of Call of Duty stuff for quite a while.
Yeah.
Anyway, the campaign's fun. I haven't tried the zombies mode yet at all. It's not really ever been my thing, but I've just not gotten into that yet, so I'll skip over that bit, obviously.
They should do DLC for this single-player campaign that's just each little section is themed around a different 90s song. So you're essentially like paying for the song, and then you just get
like
to
Rayman.
run around in a level that's like... yeah.
We need a guitar hero every month, but in Call of Duty.
I want to blow people up to do the Bartman.
Zombies can't speak to. The multiplayer, though, I really liked the Modern Warfare 3 multiplayer. It was a lot of fun. That was the best part of that game by a fair mile, but was also like some of the best multiplayer that Call of Duty has done in a bit. Partly because the maps for it were from Modern Warfare 2 from 2009, which was maybe the best, or maybe the peak of that series in terms of people's enjoyment of it. But this one is pretty good. I am liking it. The changes that they've made are in things like the movement is now omnidirectional sprinting. So you've been able to sprint in the Call of Duty games forever, but like forwards like a tank. And you couldn't really strafe easily. Now it's sort of 360 sprinting, which frees you up to be a bit quicker around the map, and you can like leap like a John Woo movie to the sides. And you can skid everywhere or slide everywhere. You can go prone backwards, Tommy.
Whoa.
Oh my God, I'm in.
And just to remind you, Tommy, to sprint, you press in the left stick.
Thank you. Yes.
Keen listeners will remember.
Yeah.
There was a time when Tommy did not know that.
Nah.
It has been a standard for coming up on 20 years. that feels fine. I don't think it makes an enormous difference to things, honestly. Like, things are a little bit quicker maybe, but it's sort of counteracted by a worse change, which is that a lot of the maps are now bigger in an unpleasant way. They're not well made, I don't think, a lot of the maps for this. They're not the best set they've come up with. Some of them have like fundamental design flaws, like parts where you spawn are kind of in a corner where you can get blocked in, and they've not been able to counteract that yet. So pretty big changes will need to happen with some of that stuff, and they're just not that interesting. Some of them are laid out. That size thing is like, you just won't see people for a fair while because they're this sort of maze that isn't thoughtfully put together in the way that a lot of the other ones were. The best Call of Duty maps have a good middle ground between being able to have lots of sight lines to everywhere else on the map, and their philosophy about that was that they wanted everyone to sort of be able to sneak up on anyone else, pretty much, or like, you got to keep your head on a swivel because you can kind of get got from wherever you are from somewhere else, and it levels out the playing field a little bit, which is both good and bad, where it's like, okay, well then everything's bullshit because I can't do anything about positioning that will actually make me anyway. So you've got to have those sight lines, which having these maps be a little more mazy gets rid of, which in some ways is a good thing because it means that you can be a little more in control of your positioning and where your threats are coming from. But the way they've done it in this is to just sort of block off huge parts of the level from where you are at any other point. So it's tough to know where everyone else is sometimes, and you get just stuck or lost in a position where you can't really do anything for, seconds at a time, but it's, a long time in a fast-paced game. Yeah. And they're just not interesting, and they're a mixed bag. Some of them are all right, some of them just aren't that great. And it's a lot of your typical stuff of like, oh, we're fighting on some broken down trains again. Yeah, I guess that's an easy way to make some corridors in the middle of a thing.
Yeah.
Did you see that they're bringing Nuketown, that old map from...
Of course they fucking are. That thing's been in like half of these games. And that's the thing that always happens with Call of Duty is one comes out and people are like, put in the good map.
Yeah.
And I wish that some of the new maps were better, that people would call a newer one the good map.
Yeah.
The progression stuff is like fine. The weapons take way longer to kind of get to max level, which I enjoyed that about Modern Warfare 3, was kind of getting my whole collection all built up, and it won't really be doable in the same way with this. All of the perks and stuff are pretty much the same as they've ever been. Like, it's a lot of, business fairly as usual. They make minor tweaks, but that ultimately don't really make a huge difference to what you're doing moment to moment. The connection stuff has been pretty poor, and I think that's pretty across the board. A lot of people complaining about packet burst stuff, which is basically too much data being tried to be pushed through either to or from the server or something. I ain't no technician, but it means that it gets laggy and sticky and bad feeling.
Right.
Like crashes and some stuff where it's just been clearly a little... It needs some patching and whatever. But overall, the multiplayer is okay this time.
Yeah.
But the campaign, pretty good. And the fact that it's on Game Pass and it's a good campaign, hell of a time for Game Pass people to like, give this a little wiggle. It's a shooter, and if you like him, you'll probably have a bit of fun with this one. It's okay. It's like on that sort of level where you can recommend it to people.
It's one of the Fast and Furious movies where it's like, it actually has some fun scenes with The Rock. It's worth seeing at the movies.
It's almost coming to the point with shooters where it's like, if you think about what the best sort of like shooter campaigns were in the last, 10 years, like Titanfall 2 always comes up and blah, 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 blah. This one's getting up there where it's like, this is just a fun time that I think everyone's going to get a bit of enjoyment out of.
Right. Nice.
Cool.
There's some stuff with the multiplayer too, where like people are complaining about, it seems like there's something wrong with like the amount of time it takes to shoot someone to death or to be shot to death seems to fluctuate in unpredictable ways. Whether or not that's because of something about code in the net code being weird, so that not every shot is actually registering in the way that it seems to, and that's what's fluctuating, or if there's some sort of balance thing that's going on that they tried to sneak in there that people are able to sense a little more than they thought they would be able to.
Right.
Don't know what that's about, but that's been a pretty popular bugbear so far.
So
for
maybe
a thing that's a bug and a bear to be popular.
Oh.
Crazy.
No, that's scary. Maybe then it's if you are, like you say, someone who's maybe not played it in a while, or is going to dip in on the franchise for the first time, like give it a few weeks for them to patch some of this stuff.
For the multiplayer, yeah. I don't think there's any huge rush to go like, hey, it's great. This one's worse than Modern Warfare 3's multiplayer was, is my initial impression. But the campaign is the best it's been in like 10 years, maybe.
Yeah, right.
Hell yeah.
Which is cool as hell.
Yeah.
Hey, depends who you are. Not everyone cares about it. Some people think video games are for babies.
Some people play video games that are akin to balancing a spreadsheet. Like one of the games I played in the past week, Citadelum. Now, have you guys ever played any of the games from the series by Sierra like Caesar or Zeus?
Was Pharaoh one of them?
Pharaoh was one of them.
I didn't play it, but I'm thinking of... I know the ones you're talking about.
Okay. They were some of my favorite games at the time. Zeus was like... That was a real... Bought it at a swap meet, didn't own fuck all other PC games, and just happened to really scratch that whatever undiagnosed itch it is in my brain.
Vampirism.
Yes, thank you. But yeah, loved it. It's one of those classic city building games. It's separate from the SimCity stuff. You're not doing so much, like it's not obviously modern day. You're not fucking running power lines and shit. It's more like you build a bunch of houses, a bunch of people turn up. Once there's some people there, you can get them like running the market to feed the houses, and then the houses upgrade because they have food now and there's more people, so you can get, and it's this sort of like constantly evolving cycle of having people living in your city increase, and with the increased population getting more shit. Great
this
games.
Is Roman times, yeah?
This one is Roman times. This one, I should also say, is not developed by that company. But it may as well be. It's one of the first times that I guess we've seen it with sort of boomer shooters and stuff. One of the times that I've booted up a game that is brand new. Like, I think the team has done some, like, it's more of like a publisher maybe, but I didn't really recognize a lot of the stuff they'd worked on before. A team has gone, we all really loved this game from, the early 2000s. Why don't we just completely copy it, like from scratch, code it ourselves, do all the art ourselves, but basically recreate this style of game that has gone out of vogue a little bit, and also like polish off the edges, introduce some quality of life stuff, and also like have it available on Steam with a nice interface and all of that stuff. It really does feel like an unofficial remake, but in a really, really appealing way. I've been playing a shit ton of it. It is very, very addictive if you're in the mood for a city building game. And I recommend it. It's, I think currently, because it just came out. It came out maybe a week ago or so, and it has like a 20% discount on Steam, which makes it like $25 or something. It's awesome. It has a sort of series of campaigns like you'd often get in these kinds of games, where it sort of tutorializes you, but over the course of, like 10 to 15 hours of missions. And then it has a big sandbox mode, and you're building like temples, and gods are coming down and being like, hey, you've been good to us. Here's a bonus. All of that stuff that was like in Pharaoh, it was in Caesar and Zeus and all of that stuff. Just done by a new team with a new coat of paint, and a few little tweaks to the gameplay that make it a lot more enjoyable. The AI is obviously, leagues ahead of where it used to be, which takes away a lot of the frustrations that people have with those games. You'd build like a market stall, and you'd often have, little people that would just go on a sort of random, patrol. But sometimes they would just never walk past the houses that you needed them to. This is much smarter, and all of those services are going to the people that needs them. So I'm having a ripper old time with it.
Cool. Citadelum. I barely know him. That's you're a big city builder fan, and you're right. Like They used to be a huge staple of PC games, especially in
Yes.
the sort of late 90s. And you get the Anno games and whatever now, and they do turn up. But Citadelum.
Citadelum, yeah.
There's a dog called Adelum that's just sat down now because we gave it that command.
Yeah, that Roman dog Adelum. It's a beautiful name.
That's what Tarzan says when he remembers the name of a singer and then can't remember if she has a surname.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, and then he has to remember how he gets to work.
Yeah. That's classic Tarzan stuff.
Really forgetful guy, that
Yeah.
Tarzan. While I was away, I finished off Echoes of Wisdom. Really enjoyed the ending of it. Especially enjoyed, before I did the end, I kind of went around and did a lot of the side stuff, just the kind of like little rifts that are the little optional ones, not so much the side quests of just someone going, hey, bring me a banana, but like the actually clearing off the map and doing all of the rifts was made me kind of enjoy it a lot more, just kind of, because it is very like, go here, go here, go here, and just kind of, poking around and making sure the map was all filled in was very fun. Really liked the ending of it. And I spent most of my flight home playing a little game on the iPhone called Balatro. I've gone back in. I kind of was initially a bit annoyed that I couldn't these like smaller games where they end up bringing them out on mobile. It is annoying that you can't do like a cloud save thing and carry your unlock stuff over, like Vampire Survivors and those kinds of games.
Yeah.
But at the same time, just having an excuse to completely start from scratch and slowly unlock all those new Jokers and stuff was pretty cool. And I don't know if there's like any new ones in there, but like there was one where I had like, oh no, I assume this would be in the console and PC one too. I had one that like you unlock a Joker for like exiting the game and then like resuming from like mid playthrough.
Right.
Which I don't think I'd ever done on the
No, I
console
don't think-
one, because I just stood
that's
putting
fine.
the Switch to sleep and like resuming it from there. So like
Right.
like the flight landed, so I had to like close the app and everything, and then I went back in. First thing it did was, you've unlocked a new Joker, and I was like, fuck, that's cool.
Yeah,
that's
that is
awesome
cool.
that there's ones like built into just stuff like that is pretty neat.
Yeah.
But yeah, plays great on the screen. It is all like on the phone. It's like pretty small, like some of the text and everything. But I mean, it works so well, and it's such a perfect phone game, especially like having I like the music in it, but having the earphones in and just like turning the music right down, listening to a pod or some music while I'm doing it. It feels great to be back in the warm embrace of Balatro after a few months. God,
It looks like it's like 10 US, 15 Australian sort of thing.
I think.
Oh yeah, I've got
that's-
Apple Arcade still, so it's just on that as well.
Yeah, I reckon it's $14.99. I think I almost got it for my trip as well, but then I just got threes instead. But I saw I think it was just the guy, the creator of it, tweeted like he wasn't able to 100% the game when it was just on PC or whatever. Because it's just so big, it's so expensive. But having it on the mobile now, he's been able to like complete his own game because he's just
right.
constantly like dipping into it.
Yeah.
Just like literally just waiting for a bus or whatever. Because it has such a broad and sort of randomly generated series of stuff to unlock and complete. But that's cool. That is when we were talking about sort of the complexities of like being a small team or a small developer and then getting the limelight and the resources and the oversight of a big publisher. That's a guy by himself, made the game in his bedroom. You can still do it. It's still very cool. That's why indie games are still a great refuge for creativity.
Anyone can win the lottery.
That's right.
It's preparation meets luck is what they say about success, right? But
Yes.
I don't know what it is with Balatro where like I liked it for the time I played it and I think I'm done with it forever. There's just something about it where it just hit some point in my brain where I was like, yep.
Yeah, right. Because I
Those
still
neurons are
play.
finished doing that.
Well, I think it's games that are simple enough. I still play Watermelon Game. I still go. I do need, I think, those little palate cleanser games that are just like. I've been playing a bit of Tetris on the PS5, but I think it remains one of those for me.
Something that's just in the background constantly in your life that you're like, I feel like playing something. I don't want to like continue a big campaign. I don't quite just want to stare at a screen and do nothing, but I kind of want to do something that's like maybe a notch or two above that.
Yeah. I want to have a game that I'm not fully engaged in while a TV show plays that I'm not fully listening to or watching.
I think my life is going to go for like an hour more than I want it to. Is there a way that I could like delete one of those hours? Just now?
Well, I've deleted a couple of hours. I just got one more game for this week. It's been out for, I think, a couple of weeks, maybe a few weeks. It's called Nobody Wants to Die. I'm playing this
starring Pierce Brosnan as James Bond.
That's right. It's a long-awaited adaptation. No, this is a game that I'm playing on the PS5. It's a detective game. Visually, it's basically if you took Rapture from BioShock and then put it in a cyberpunk high-rise city. That is the art style. It is an alternate future Art Deco world. It basically also has the premise of that book and show Altered Carbon, which is that we've reached the point in technological advancement where you never die. Your consciousness is always stored on something, and when your body dies, your consciousness is transferred. And it's all, I think it's like enforced in the world of this game. Like you are basically constantly paying a subscription service to be alive. And you have to, it's like government mandated. So that's the setting. And that being the setting for a murder mystery or a series of murder mysteries is pretty cool. It does, as I think of it, have, I think, the same plot as Altered Carbon, at least season 1, which I watched, which is a very rich and powerful and well-known person is like murdered. Their consciousness is like sabotaged. They can't come back. And you play a grizzled detective whose wife recently also died, who is like unofficially taking on this case while he recuperates mentally. And that's the setup. That's the story. It's pretty cool. It had me kind of hooked in. And then the actual gameplay is first person. It's kind of linear in that you're sort of given a mission and then you go to the mission. But then you're in sort of like the Arkham games, especially I think the first one and the second one, you're sort of like in the crime scene and you're in crime scene mode and you can like turn on like a UV lamp to look for bloodstains and footprints and stuff. And you can, there's this other thing that is, I guess, the main hook. It's very cyberpunk, where you would go into the brain memory things, where basically you will cycle backwards and forwards through time, and then you'll hit like key points, and then you can explore the crime scene.
Arkham VR was exactly this.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right. And so, yeah, you'll hit like... And it's, I've only played, I guess, the first mission, the first sort of chance you get to do an investigation. And I think it's pretty guided in this one because it felt extremely linear. But I think it's just, taking you from like new tool to explore each way to solve stuff.
That seems to be, people just on Steam that I'm looking at here's main criticism is that it'll kind of hold your hand through the whole thing, which for a game about a detective is a bit like, oh, well, all right, let me...
Yeah, it is odd. It was an odd experience for it to be so incredibly linear, to the point where, and because the first level, the first mission is like a good hour or so. I was like, I guess this part is sort of more visual novel, and maybe that is what the entire game is.
It seems like that's the vibe.
Which, if that is the case, that's a shame because probably the worst thing about the game is the writing. It is very, like, not just derivative in that it, is referencing a bunch of genres and stuff. It's just very much like people who've seen movies that are like this, but, aren't massive fans and haven't read, the detective stories that influence the movies. And so it's all very, like, fourth hand, like, genre speak. Which,
halfway through an octopus.
Yeah. If half of that octopus was talking about horror movies or sci-fi or something.
I feel like they're the kind of little underwater creeps who love horror movies heaps.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just not particularly strong. I could live with, like I said, the setting and the setup and the premise being a little bit familiar, But yeah, when it's like kind of eye rolly dialogue, that is a shame. So I'm gonna continue playing it. It wasn't like, it's not a full AAA price game, but it's not nothing, and I want to get some value out of it. So I will continue and see if at least they take the shackles off, for some of the investigation stuff, because that was fun, and reconstructing the scene and playing it back and sort of figuring out what's happening as you go through that, even if you're figuring out as like a second party participant almost, with the game taking the first stab at it. I'll keep exploring it, but I've heard other people really enjoyed it, and that may be because of the atmosphere and the milieu is very appealing to them. But yeah, I'll see where I am next week. I'll let you know if the lights are on or not, as we always say in our famous ratings guide.
Weirdly, there is another Batman Arkham VR game out very recently too.
Yeah, right.
If it's doing some of the detective stuff again, because that was cool in the one from years ago.
Yeah. It was almost like,
but similar to this,
game.
Where it's like, well, there's only one way to solve it, and it's pretty obvious.
Yeah. It doesn't quite have the enjoyment of something like a Case of the Golden Idol. It's like, yeah, there's still only one way to solve it, but the permutations of all the words and the enjoyment of again, like the visuals and the atmosphere and the music and all that stuff, you do feel a little bit more like you're in control as well. So I don't know. I'm always, keen to try out a detective game, and my current review on this one is mild at best.
Well, that new Rise of the Golden Idol is out the 12th of November, I think, within the next couple of weeks.
Right. Yeah, great.
Yeah, before we get to that, there's two more things I've been playing a little bit. I won't talk much about them. I've been playing more Metaphor. I fucking love that game. I'm powering through it. I'm really enjoying myself. I think it's a good time. And probably we'll talk more about that towards the end of the year, is when it's worth revisiting that. I'd like to finish it first. And I played some Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, which got very popular, and I wanted to see what all the fuss was about. I never really played the Budokai Tenkaichi games back in the day, which were the ones that this is sort of a spiritual successor to, or just a flat-out successor, I think.
There's a bit of spirituality in Dragon Ball.
That's true. It's all about energy and power.
That's
and
right. Making wishes.
So it's a fighting game basically, but you've got like full 3-directional movement. You can fly around, and you're kind of dodging attacks and all of that, flying around. I don't love it personally. I think that it doesn't feel very good to play.
Yeah, right.
So people are super into it.
It's a big streaming game at the moment.
Yeah, it just is.
Maybe
clunky.
it's like you've got to be like super into Dragon Ball, and like that's doing a lot of the work for people.
I like Dragon Ball a lot when I was younger, and it's cool having like this huge roster of characters. Like there's a lot of them. It's every Dragon Ball character I could call to mind, or Dragon Ball Z character at least. And then there's a lot from Super who I'm not so familiar with, but all the different variants of them too and whatever. And that is very cool, and I do appreciate the fact that they've not tried to balance them all. It's just like, yeah, man, Tien sucks. He can't fight anyone. You think he's going to beat fucking Frieza? No. But I think that's a bit of fun. And also, even in a multiplayer setting, like to try and beat someone with the insult character.
Yeah, play Yajirobe and go up against Frieza or something.
So Yajirobe, weirdly, is brokenly good because he can have sensu beans during it. And I think they've patched that a little bit, but he could like really fuck with people in some way.
Right.
It's like it takes a while to figure out the controls. They're very offbeat. They're not like most other games. Like there's your punch and you shoot and all of that, but you're flying around and going up and down with the L triggers to travel vertically. You've got sort of defense that you can kind of try to parry an attack with, and you can be guarding to stop a flurry of punches. And the way they come out is pretty simple kind of combos where it's just like if you can press square 4 times, guess what? You'll punch them for longer. And there's a sort of heavier attack thing that you can throw in the mix, but they're not like the full-on complicated like Tekken juggle combos or anything. You're building up power to then use one of your stronger abilities where it'll whip the camera around and you'll go, ha, and then do something bigger at them. It just all feels a little shit, a little floppy to me. It just doesn't feel tight in the way that a game that is as fast paced as this, I think, would be more pleasant to be.
The way that it looks like it would feel kind of weightless, but is it that, or is it more just like imprecise and...
It's that it's really hard to express, which is my only job to do here, so I'll try and achieve it. Right. It's sort of thin. It's not that it's weightless, it's that what you're doing feels scratchy. It feels like tenuous. And like, this isn't like people, if they're into this, may go like, yeah, well, that's just because you're bad at it. And sure, maybe. But the base controls...
That's very sassy from people.
And says a lot about the, I've created that person, but I'm upset by them, feel judged by them, and will live my life based around trying to appease them. It's just something that's like low... lack of refinement or something. It just feels like this mod. It feels
right.
like flimsy in a way that I can't connect with, that I think people don't care much about, in a way where sometimes a FIFA game can feel a bit like that. The controls in these sorts of games can be a bit fucked sometimes in terms of like being an interface between you and the game, which they literally are, but in the best controls make that thoughtless. You are in sync with the game in some way, and this isn't that. I'm always thinking about it in the way that with FIFA, where you've got to adjust with the thing, and it's like, and again, if I played it for 100 hours, I'd probably stop feeling that way. But as an experience of coming into this thing and really doing my darndest to get to grips with it, I don't like the way it feels to play this game.
Right.
Because it's
that's pretty
floppy
important.
And complicated in an unsatisfying way. That being said, if you're a Dragon Ball fan, all the characters are here and they're well voiced and it looks great, and you've got a lot of fan elements to get into here. People are into the multiplayer as well. So if you just if you're not that critical, honestly, I think helps. If all games hold you at that arm's length, I think that helps.
Right.
That's my kind of assumption about what a lot of the response is. That is an educated guess, but also there's a bunch of different modes, but like the main story stuff is, recapping the Dragon Ball story that every game does every time. But it's also just kind of like not well done. It's another way in which the whole game feels like there are these stiff animations and these awkward cutscenes that will show a little bit of this thing and then like awkwardly load to this other area where it will have like just this shit truncated version of the story that like is
He's my favorite character.
Truncated. Yeah, that is his full name. I don't know why they shorten it. But I don't think is a high quality game, to be honest.
Sure.
Yeah.
But it has a lot of elements in there that are fun if you're not as fussed about that, because you needn't be. It is sure. There's a lot of elements of fun there, and I do get what it is, and I've played more of it than I probably would have if I hadn't have liked something about it. I really went through all the training mode stuff and got my head around how it controls and can do it, and I'm like doing okay at it when I play it. It's just that I don't think it feels good to play. But if the feeling of seeing those characters fight is the better feeling out of the two feelings of fun game or fun experience, then I get it and have fun.
Yeah.
Cool.
But it ain't for me.
Whatever you do in the privacy of your own lounge room, hey, that's fine.
That's
but me?
up to you. I just don't want to hear about it.
You just better not kill anyone in there.
Yeah.
Dude, I mean it to a point, but don't be crazy.
Yeah. Still within the realm of law.
Not all laws. You can break some of them, as far as I'm concerned.
That's true.
But to my own detriment, I won't say which ones. So use your imaginations and paint
yourself green and pretend to be Piccolo. That's completely
I like Piccolo.
Okay.
So that's another little game there, and there's a bunch coming out. There's a new Dragon Age game out today.
Yeah.
That's getting some very interestingly varied feedback. that I've seen so far. I'm interested to. If it weren't for metaphor, I'd be going in, but I don't know if I have it in me, boys.
Well, yeah, I mean, I've played a bit more metaphor, and something about the setting isn't grabbing me like I was hoping it would. And the characters. Maybe it's just because I was preferring to play Black Myth Wukong, which I am nearly finished, has ramped up in difficulty, but also in like variation and creativity in a really fun and satisfying way. I hope that I can finish the game. It is getting really, really difficult, but I've been playing a lot of Black Myth Wukong.
You'd be a candidate to give Dragon Age a go, I'd say, right? Are you interested?
Yeah, I mean, I really haven't liked any of the games since Dragon Age Origins, but I have played them all, and I've hoped that each one would be good. I loved Origins, and yeah, I'm definitely curious. I'm definitely curious about this one. I'll see what those reviews say.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll talk about it. Maybe I'll get around to it too. But if we don't do it, then hey, you'll figure out it's because we're not that interested.
Yeah.
But there's that
Rise
Rise of the Golden Idol.
2.
Fucking Stalker 2's meant to come out in a few
Yes.
weeks. There's a bunch of shit coming up.
Oh yeah.
And
Well,
we'll play
that's
that Monster
gonna-
Hunter beta probably.
Yes.
I'm
Yeah.
going
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
that for sure. That's going to do us for this week, folks. Thank you for listening. filthycasuals.com.au. Get on the Patreon. Get a bonus show from us every week. Our movies and TV and other pop culture based show that we do on there. We also do a listener mailbag episode once a month.
Yes.
We also do a special zone kind of report topic once a month show that a new one of them is just about to come out or will have just come out.
Yes.
Depending on when you listen to this. Yeah?
Yeah, I know. I was just thinking about how time works. Yeah.
I think the bonus episode, I think both should be out about the same time as this, to be honest.
Yeah, cool.
Right.
I think that's the way it's
Yeah.
going to work. I think everything
Cool.
should just be there right now. We'll have the mailbag up. We'll have the special episode up. You can go over to patreon.com/filthycasualspod and see
Yep.
the proof
Yep.
for yourself.
Your whole weekend of content is going to be there for you
Exactly.
by Thursday.
If
Yep.
your weekend is like 4 hours long,
And you have nothing else to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, well, that's going to do us for this week. Thank you, everyone, for listening. We will see you next time, as we say here at the end of every episode of Filthy Casuals.
oh, by the way, you've all got to be back in the office next week, and the office is over here. All right, see ya.